flower cottage to make bouquets for the flower stand on Saturday, and Eric said, let's grab the camera and bring you along on our entire process. We've got the kids in the bounce house that we're about to turn on. We have put the baby down to bed, and I have my Friday night candy treats, and we're gonna go make flowers, so come on. So for those that are new to our channel, or you guys have been watching and you want like some perspective.
Talk about the blackberries too.
Yeah, if you want some perspective on the size of our like tiny but very profitable farm, that was our backyard where the kids are. We walk by our super beautiful blackberry patch that has berries all over it. And we're already here at the farm side with the field and the stand right there. This mini house is the cooler. And then we have what we call our flower cottage, where we process all the bouquets and all of that sort of thing. We obviously have 5 children, so we have evidence of said children everywhere. It is a true family farm. But I haven't been in the cottage all day today, I'll be honest. We finished homeschool and I just kind of like put my feet up today. So there's probably some chores we need to do in the cottage to get the process, ready for really efficient bouquet making. And we'll show you. Like buckets that we need to clean and the things we should do. Oh good, the light was left on. Another evidence of children. That's not too bad.
The door wasn't left open.
The door was not open, so it's not filled with bugs, which is good. On our Facebook group, which I'll link in the comments, a couple weeks ago, I had posted asking everyone like what kind of questions you had about bouquet making and harvesting. I tried to answer a lot of the harvesting questions in the video we posted before this one, so check that one out. But in this video, as I go about making bouquets, I copied and pasted on an iPhone note some of the common questions, and I'll hopefully go over the answers for some of those. We have made other bouquet making videos, both for summer flowers and spring flowers. I think maybe we've even done 3 of them at this point. I will put those in the comments because each video is a little different and goes into other details, since it's kind of impossible to like encapsulate every single possible question in a video. So if you like video binging, I'll put those links in the comment. But what we need to do is we need to clean some of our stand buckets. We don't use our harvest buckets in the stand. We have stainless steel feed buckets that we use. I think it looks nicer. It photographs nicely. It keeps it separate from like getting beat up in the harvest and stuff. So I need to get a couple of those cleaned. I like to have my space a bit open and ready for us to get the buckets out of the cooler, put everything out. I need to think in my brain what our recipe is going to be, because you need to stick to a recipe to stay efficient and profitable. We have sunflowers, snapdragons, and status in these bouquets. So I need to think through, I know my pricing for each stem, and I need to think through what's going to go into them, but these flowers are going to be really easy to make bouquets with, both make them look really big and beautiful, but also be really efficient and easy to put together. I also need to fold wraps. Wowza, I thought I was more on top of it, but that's what I get for being lazy during the day. So we need to
But you're used to this.
What?
It's not a big weekend. So.
Oh, yeah, so this is not like...
Now when you make 200 bouquets.
Yeah, when I make 200 bouquets, I'm a little more on top of it, and I give myself a much longer time period to do this. For us, honestly, after Mother's Day, we kind of start our descent down in what our sales numbers are, because our area absolutely loves spring flowers. We're like selling out in like a hot second, 200 bouquets, blah, blah, blah. But then once school is out, like kind of goes off a cliff a bit, which I do try to take into account with our crop planning and everything, not as much as I can, not overplant. But yeah, it's not going to be like an insane day tomorrow because it's the end of May and people are off of, they're being lazy like I was today. They might be going to the lake or doing something this weekend. So I think I'm probably only going to make like 40 bouquets and go from there. I will have more flowers than 40 bouquets. So if it's like, it surprises me and more people are coming, I can make more bouquets and adjust that way. But I'm not making like a crazy amount. But we need to get this space prepped and ready to actually make the bouquets.
I'll be in this video for the heck of it. Alex has been, going through, and she does the harvest process and getting everything, and she's been filling up the cooler. The cooler has been quite the helpful thing. It's an 8x8 walk-in cooler. Right now it's 36 degrees, and take a look at what's in here. I'm just gonna step in and we'll close the door, and you can see how this works in here. This is a cool bot using a regular window air conditioning unit, and it really does a good job. It's there's a bit of a learning curve with a few aspects of it, like humidity levels and stuff, but other than that, it's just a big thing. We're barely filling it up right here in the summer months, but that's nice because it's much easier to work with than a fridge. So we've been well, I haven't been harvesting, but my wife has been harvesting marigolds, snaps. We have our first sunnies showing up. Here's a nice bucket of sunnies that are finally opening up. Everything here in our area is about 2 weeks late this year because we've actually been really, really pleasantly mild compared to most years. By this point, we're already tipping into the 90s, and we've had, like this morning was 56 degrees, but that's come with a lot of rain. So easy to just throw a bucket of flowers in here. So I'm gonna come back around here so you can see my big old face, and I'll maybe set up this camera as I get the flowers out. That air conditioner can literally cool that room from 90 degrees to a chilly 36 degrees within about 5 to 8 minutes. Let me set this up here. I gotta bring them from that door to that door. So let's see here. Sunnies. I'm just showing them on camera as I grab them. Yeah?
So pretty.
Here we go. We got some snaps, some last second Coram, and some more sunnies. Status. More snappies and sunnies.
This space is cleaned up. I folded 40 wraps because that was my goal. So I also know when I'm at the end of my wraps that I've made 40 bouquets. Eric brought me 3 buckets to start. I don't bring all the buckets out at once because it's just good to keep them in the cooler. And honestly, I might make like 20 tonight and get up early in the morning and make another 20 sort of thing. So I don't have to, be lugging extra buckets. But I have my 3 buckets I'm going to start with filled with water. I have my rubber bands. Have my stapler, I have my chopper, my space is cleared out, so it's...
Talk about your space.
Okay.
I know it's repetitive, but people always want to know how we do it.
Well, so...
Some of this was like...
What? I'm going to get closer so people can hear you.
I mean, like when I built this, we didn't like have like a full in view, like how you would do this, but it's actually worked out really well for you.
Yeah, when you made this, we were like making...
Guesses.
$15 wraps from our driveway,
Jars.
like 8 bouquets a day, thinking we were like killing it. But Eric built me this beautiful table that is bar height, which is helpful because then I'm not like bending over. And also this table as well is bar top height. So I can just... This is
an old family room dining room.
Yeah, this used to be our dining room table and it's bar height, which is really nice. In the videos in the past, I was always bending down with buckets. And then finally last year when I was like pregnant in 2nd and 3rd trimester, bending over with buckets, you guys in the comments on YouTube were like, ma'am, get yourself a rack or something to bring the buckets up higher. And I was being a curmudgeon because I didn't want to spend money and do the logistics. But you're right. And what Eric did is he took apart one of our seed growing racks because we didn't need it anymore. We only needed 1 rack. So the buckets now, you guys, are up high at the same height. So I don't have to bend over quite as much. So I do listen to you guys when you talk to me in the comments. But I've come up with my recipe. I'm going to do 5 sunflowers, 2 snapdragons, 3 status. We do a $25 bouquet. You're never doing $25 in flowers. We do about $21 in flowers. And then the $4 extra are labor, supplies, logistics, all of that built in. Some people price their stems in a way that kind of builds that into every flower, but because every flower has a different stem price, I find it easier to give the flowers their valued stem price and then have a separate charge for like time, labor, logistics, all of that at the bouquet making process. We grow 14 varieties on our farm, spring through fall. If you guys want to know our pricing for every single flower to just make it easy, because I know in the beginning it's hard figuring out what you should charge for your stems. We charge what I would call average good, meaning I'm not undercharging like a lot of people do, but I'm also not in a super bougie metropolitan area that can get even more money for these flowers. So I would consider myself like a very good baseline pricer. So if you guys want that, I have that in PDF form over on our Patreon. I can link it in the comments. It's a nice PDF download that you can get. You can print it out. It can be easy, handy, or take a picture to have it on your phone, sort of thing. When I go through this, if you also want to know because you're stressed about making bouquet recipes and you want to know, like, Alex, just give me all of your recipes, I also did that. I'll put that in the link. I include all of our 2024 recipes that I used. I want to say it's like 15 plus recipes, spring, summer, fall. I have it all in there for you guys. If you grow similar flowers to me, then that's kind of like a, here you go, just copy and be profitable, hopefully. So that's all of the housekeeping out of the way. But here we have the flowers that I've harvested. We have a lot more, obviously, you saw in the cooler. But because we don't sell wholesale, when I'm harvesting in the field, I'm just harvesting what's ready. I'm rubber banding it and I'm putting it in the cooler. I'm not doing like 10 stem bunches. I'm not counting things. I'm just harvesting what's ready. And then when it's time to make bouquets, like on a Friday night, I look at the cooler, I look what we have, and I make a recipe, and then I build it and go. I know that that is a stressful part about crop planting, and you're like, how much do I plant to get 20 bouquets every week, sort of thing. I'll be honest, that's not how we farm. Eric jokes and says we farm on vibes, but a lot of times, you know, I'm just making bouquets with what we have. I know I've figured out now generally from trial and error how much to plant on our field to get on average about what we want, but I'm not so dialed in that it's like this precision Excel spreadsheet. That's not my personality, but also I think just with weather and the harshness of Oklahoma and just the added stress of all of that. Like, I'm not a farmer florist. I don't need a particular number of snapdragons on May 20th. And so I have to back up and create crop plans and stuff. It's like, I generally try to crop plan so that we, in theory, can always have flowers. And then I harvest everything that's ready. And then I make bouquets for our stand. And that's how we do it, which I know might not totally be the answer that some of you want to hear, but some of it is also experience. The way I crop plan now from experiencing our field and our climate is different than what I knew in year 1 or 2. And so oftentimes the answer is like observation and patience. But did I answer the question you thought I should? Eric was like, talk about your process.
Like why this works for retail versus wholesale.
Why does it work for retail?
But you don't have to do a cut sheet.
Oh yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not having to look at.
My question.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Eric said, how is this different like than wholesale and retail? Because I'm not doing like an availability list and stuff. This is why I like retail, because I'm not having to go out on our field on Saturday and anticipate the volume that I'm going to have, put it into an availability sheet, send it out to florists, get orders, get the cut sheet, go out to the field, that sort of thing. I'm just cutting what's available and making bouquets and working really hard on marketing and, you know, hoping we get close to sell out is what we do. I prefer that. I actually find it less stressful. Wholesale sounds way stressful to me, and way more needing to be like, I don't know, I feel like the field, precise, but also I feel like the field is in control versus me just being like, you know, this is what I'm going to do. But I will say, if you're the person where you're just like, I need to make 20 bouquets and I'm going out to the field and I don't want to cut too much, I don't want to cut too less and have to go back out, that sort of thing, that I get. What you want to do is the opposite. It's like the reverse of what I'm doing. You need to make a formula recipe, and then how many flowers you need, and then inflate it just a little bit because you know sometimes the snapdragon snaps and snapdragon snaps when you're making bouquets. So
it's the second time she's made that joke.
I'm making
Snapdragon jokes.
Mom joke. But like back to my example, like if you need to make 20 bouquets, well, if you're using my recipe, if there's 5 sunflowers per bouquet and you need 20 bouquets, that's 100 sunflowers. So you write that down or however you're going to track it. You go out to the field and you harvest probably 105 sort of thing. And you do that for each flower so that you have exactly what you need plus a little bit more. So then you have all your materials to make your bouquet. So you need to set a recipe before you go out to the field and cut exactly what you want. The opposite of what I do is I go and cut everything that's ready. And then I look, visually, and I make bouquets with that recipe until I kind of get to the end of what I have left. So for all of you precision queens out there, I might not be your girl because I'm a little more wing it, which I find a little bit less stressful because these are a live product. These are plants. You can't dial it in exact precision. And if you expect that, it's probably going to be very stressful and frustrating to you. But let's start making bouquets. These are gold light sunflowers. This is how I harvest them. Well, I harvest them at petal lift, so they've started to open, but I harvest them really, really tight, kind of like there. It's technically called petal lift, so that one started to open a little bit. They will open up this big for the customers at home. We had a cooler snafu, and it was warm in there for about an hour, and these were the ones that were in there, so they kind of like opened up a bit more. I wouldn't sell a bouquet of 5 of these completely opened up, but I'll put 1 in each bouquet and they're gonna get totally fine vase life out of them. They'll just get longer with the ones that are tighter. So I'll just distribute them a bit throughout. Okay, so logistic time. I have determined my table. I can reasonably fit 10 bouquets. I like that number because it's 10. It's easy to count. Like I need 40 bouquets, so I'm going to go through this process 4 times. But I do, what did we call this in our past videos, the process that I do?
Assembly line.
I do assembly line versus like a florette does. She puts all of her flowers sorted by variety down a table and then pulls them out and makes the bouquet in her hand by pulling them out of the buckets for each bouquet. Whereas I will lay 10 out and I will go through an assembly line, make the piles of the flowers that are going in the bouquet, and then I will pick them up, arrange them in my hand from the completed pile, and then wrap them and put them in a rubber band. I think this is more efficient, mainly because I found that constantly flowers were getting tangled coming out of the bucket and then you only had one hand to work with. And so it was making a mess or things were falling on the ground. And also for me, like if I'm listening to a podcast or something, like I'm getting distracted and I found myself like recounting constantly, like how many sunflowers was that? How many more do I need? And I'm recounting and that just felt super inefficient versus this process here that I'm gonna show you guys. I find it to be much faster. But also the way I do it is I'm touching the flowers a lot, which gives me plenty of time to inspect. Like I'm not really looking at them right now. I'm largely just going for numbers. Like I'm gonna put 5 sunflowers in each. That's what I'm doing. But I'm gonna pick them up again to arrange them. And when I do that, if I see something like, bug munch on the leaves, when I have it in my hand to arrange it, I can pop it off, I can finesse it, or I can notice like, oop, that one has caterpillar damage or whatever. I can address that then, which I also find to be more efficient than, again, looking at a big bucket. See how they're getting tangled? Like if I was trying to do this with one hand, I would risk like popping a head off or something falling out on the ground, and I don't know, to each their own. But I tried Florette's way and it wasn't for me, but feel free maybe to try both and compare your experience and which one felt frustrating to you and not. See how I'm also like talking and multitasking fairly well because I'm not having to count multiple varieties in my hand at a time. I'm able to just like, I'm on 5 right now. This is my 5 pile. Come here. 5 sunflowers. We grow gold light because I like the green face with the pastels of Status and Snaps, and I wait to grow the darker faced classics when we have like bolder, brighter zinnias and Lizzies and all of that. Okay, so that was 5 sunflowers each. Now, oh yeah, look at us. So now it's Snapdragon time. I love snapdragons. If snapdragons fresh, these are Potomac Apple Blossom, which is like one of the queens of the snapdragons. Super popular. If you are frustrated by snapdragons, we have a video talking all about how to grow beautiful snaps. I will also link that. So in my recipe, I said 5 sunflowers, now 2 snaps. I will say this. Let me back up. You need to remember what you're making. You're making a affordable grab and go wrapped market bouquet. You're not making a wedding arrangement. You're not making a floral piece. This is not an event. This is not a $50 custom order. So you lose a lot of efficiency when you are coming at it with like a florist design mentality where it's like, I want to do 1 apple blossom with 1 lavender, and then it would go beautifully with this fuchsia snap and this, you know, or this fuchsia Status and whatever. And you're doing like this really complicated like color palette design. And customers that are buying retail market bouquets just want bold and bright color. They're not looking for like a color wheel demonstration. So don't design each wrapped bouquet as if you're doing a custom wedding bouquet. That I think is one of the biggest time sucks for people making wrap bouquets and why it takes you so long is 1, you're obsessing over the exact colors of the varieties and stuff you put in. And then the second part, which we'll go over in a minute, is how you're arranging it in your hand is absolutely killing your time. So I have a stack of apple blossom here. So we're doing 1 apple blossom and then we're going to do 1 of whichever color I pull out next. Another way to make this easier on you is when you crop plan, before you order things, look at what you've ordered color-wise and pick things that go with everything. So you don't grow like dark red snaps that can only go in a bouquet with, you know, this particular larkspur and whatever, and so you have to be more complicated. Grow a crop plan where kind of no matter how you mix and match, the color palette works together. That's one of the reasons why I do grow like apple blossom, this coral color, and the lavender, because they all look good together. Like I can't, there's never gonna be like a garish ick combo. And then that just makes life here so much faster to put these together when I'm not stressed about like what goes with this like highlighter yellow rocket snap that you grew and nothing goes with it except for this one particular thing. Okay, so 5 sunnies, 2 snaps. Now I'm going to do 3 Status. I absolutely am obsessed with Status because it's pretty tough in Oklahoma. It puts off a ton of stems and it lasts forever in the vase. So customers are usually super impressed by it because they feel like they're getting a lot of value for their money because, you know, everyone's Status from last week's bouquets are like still in their vase. So what did I say? 3 Status. Again, I'm not because purple, dark purple, cream, they all go together. So like it doesn't really matter. Now the one thing I will do, and it's not that hard to do, is I won't give a customer like all 3 yellow status. Like I have a mix in my hand, so it's fairly easy to be picking out, you know, what to give people. But we're doing 3 status. Might have to go get some in the cooler. So I was right here. 2, no, we should have enough. 3. 1, 2, 3. See, I'm not like, not making a wedding bouquet. I'm making a beautiful but quick market bouquet. Okay, so assembly line. Made my recipe, put out the piles. Now, obviously, I'm not gonna come here and just be like, you know, because we put them in layers, like the sunnies are on the bottom, snap status is on the top. I'm not just gonna be like, done. You know, I'm not that uncaring about the arrangement. But I'm not going to spend more than probably 7 seconds on putting this together. Here, why don't I put one over here because the lighting's a little better. Okay, so the sunflowers are gonna go in the middle typically because it just makes it easier with the wrap if they're not completely on the edge. A lot of growers like to grow horizon because the faces are tilted up at like a 45-degree angle, so it's easier to get them in the wrap. I try to set the wrap fairly low, so I don't tend to have a lot of like smushing from the angle that I put the wrap, but this is my chance also to inspect. Like I don't see anything, I don't see any bug munching or maybe anything that I missed, but I put the 5 sunnies together, I nestled the snaps in, and then I like to put the status kind of like together. Now obviously it's lower, but people go home and they chop off these sunflower stems really short. They don't put them in like super tall vases. So it's okay if I think if your status is a shorter stem and it sits a little lower. But this is the bouquet. I leave these leaves on, like the top leaf with the bloom, like this is an example, because it's just more greenery in the bouquet. You can fully strip them off, but I don't. So here's this. Now I arranged the bouquet based on looking down at it, which is how people are going to buy the bouquet, because they're looking down into a bucket. So they're looking down on it. They're not looking like 360 because the wrap's going to cover that. So they're looking down on it. So I put it in my hand based on where it's going to sit up top. But now obviously I have stems. You know, the status stem ends here and the sunflower goes way out here. So over on my chopper, I'm going to cut it probably within 1 inch so that I know all the stems are going to be in the water. Eric bought me a chopper, which I'm thankful for, but I didn't have a chopper the first 3 years pretty much, and I just used snips. Obviously it's more hand motion. Okay, I show this in every video that we do with bouquets because I think it's nice and it saves you a lot of effort. I don't do the classic open the whole thing, twist it, open again. I have small hands and I'm trying to just decrease like labor and muscles and stuff. And that's, you know, you do 200 bouquets like this, it's a lot of forearm flexing. So I like to pick a sturdy stem, which on sunflower bouquets is super easy. So I do that. I'm wrapping it around and then I'm just picking another sturdy stem for it to go up. So I'm not doing all the twists. Okay, now the part that people ask a lot about. This is 18 by 18 craft paper that we have that I folded to look like mountain peaks. Super easy. If you have kids, this is a great kid activity. My daughter, who is 10, does this. But I'm going to place the flowers up. I'm not going to place them down in. I don't want the wrap. When people look at buckets from the side, I don't want them to see just a wall of like craft paper mountains. I want them to see the flowers. So I put the flowers higher up. Now, I would imagine this is a little bit on how, like, if you're left-handed or right-handed or how your brain works, but I fold the left side over. And again, I put this in my other videos too if you want to keep watching other examples, because I know it can be hard. But I'm closing this side with my right hand. I'm pulling it. And with my right hand, I'm doing this. Okay, so this seems like super obvious, right? Like you made a wrap, duh. But a lot of people complain about their wrap sliding down, and they're sliding down because this part is not tight enough. So what I do here that I think makes the difference is I've got my hand on each one and I'm pulling them opposite directions, and that makes this end a lot tighter. So what I'm not doing is I'm not like pulling to tighten the top. I'm pulling to tighten the bottom. And so that includes, you know, not just pulling this side, the fold over side, as hard as you can. Like watch when I pull here. See how that got tighter by pulling this side? That's how I find I can keep our wraps. Oh no, critical failure. All right, we're back in action. The jam is fixed. Okay, so I've made the wrap. I'm gonna staple it. I find that this keeps them tight. Now, it does, like obviously, this is not the tightest paper ever. So if customers are manhandling them a lot, like pulling them out of the buckets, putting them back in, they're going to get loose. Like this is not like crazy tight here. So if customers are manhandling them a lot, those wraps will fall down, and I just think that's life. When I go to check on the stand to make sure, you know, all the flowers are in the water and there's no problems, like if I see a wrap that's, you know, fallen down a bit, I just pull it back up and tighten it. As long as it doesn't look sloppy, they're gonna take the wrap off at home. So the standard shouldn't be like it never slides. You just want it to generally be happy. But, you know, especially in our busy days, our flowers get really manhandled, and that's just part of it. But here is a wrap, and it's beautiful.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap, ha-ha! And it's profitable, so that's, ooh. Oh no, here we go. So I'll make this one real fast. So we have our 5 sunflowers. Make them all. I tend to cut everything at like the exact same height. It cracks Eric up that I eyeball like the exact height every time. But, so I nestle in some snaps. It also kind of protects them from getting a little bit squished. Snaps. And you kind of have like a little perimeter of status. You can see everything from the wrap, and then they go home and do their own thing anyways. So it's not, again, you're not making like you make it and then this is how it shall ever stay. Like what did that take me? 9 seconds to put into my hand. I saw in the comments from you guys, a handful of you were like trying to do the spiral method and stuff. I just don't do it. I think that it is excessive and not really conducive to a quick market bouquet, especially when you're trying to make, you know, see, I'm gonna take off some of these munchies. Ideally trying to make, you know, if you're trying to make like 50 bouquets one evening, I just think the spiral method is really excessive, and it is more in line with, you know, you're making a bouquet that's a custom order or a bridal thing, and it has 30 stems with a lot of filler, and so you're doing the spiral method to make sure everything fans out beautifully and stuff. And it's like, people are gonna see the status of sunflowers, the snaps, they're gonna grab it, they're gonna go home, they're gonna rip off the paper that they don't care if it's loose, they're gonna throw it in the trash, they're gonna take off the rubber band, and either they're just gonna plop it right in a vase, or they're gonna chop the stems off and put it how they want. And it didn't matter if you did the spiral arrangement, because they've done their own thing with it. And when you're charging $25, you know, people aren't, it's not a $50 florist arrangement. They're not agonizing over it, you know, like looking at it and stuff. You're really not needing to create And I'm not trying to say these aren't beautiful because I think they're beautiful. I think they're worth $25, but I think we kind of turn ourselves into like bridal bouquet makers with our technique and what we're trying to create when it's a market bouquet. And all of those farms that all of us follow on Instagram and we swoon over their, you know, tons of flowers and their 100 bouquets that they're putting out on a Tuesday and blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's a ladybug larva. You know, when they're having their staff make those 200 bouquets that we're swooning over, they're not doing the spiral method that takes 5 minutes a bouquet. So, sorry, I'm just being weird, saving the ladybug. So one thing I've said before many times is, what is the exact way I phrase it? Proceed as you wish to carry on, which is basically, start as you wish to carry on. Meaning, you know, if you're only making 15 bouquets, there's another one. Don't practice spending efficient short time on making your bouquets, even if it's only 15, because I know someone asked me like, how did I go from like just starting out and how did I learn to be so efficient and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, I practiced before I needed to make 200 bouquets for Mother's Day. You know, I wasn't spending 5 minutes per bouquet when I had 10 bouquets. I made those bouquets in like 15 minutes and moved on. So I'm really trying to save you and you are just like making your life hard. So that's my true encouragement that, you know, some people just ignore and dismiss and then they get really frustrated at how long things are taking them. And it's like, well, there's the answer. So yeah, this, I average, like when everything's ready, all my supplies are ready, like I showed you guys, and I've started the assembly line process, it probably takes me a minute a bouquet, maybe a minute 15 to make them. So just as a goal, I didn't start at a minute. I probably was at more like 3 minutes when I started. And then you just keep, you know, your hands get better with practice. You get the feel for it, you get more confident, and then you can keep, you know, going faster. So I think we even have a video back 2 years ago where I was like, I made a bouquet in 2 minutes, or like 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and I was so proud.
Plus some 1 minute.
What? When? Just now?
No, the video we made last year.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh. All right, well, there you go. So here's, now I will say one thing we're about to do. I'm gonna have Eric turn off the camera. I've got 3 bouquets here. It is 8 o'clock. I'm gonna go outside and he's gonna take a picture of me holding the bouquets and I'm gonna post it on social media to give our customers kind of like a preview. This is what your bouquets are gonna look like tomorrow. Because often they're deciding now if they're gonna get up in the morning and come see us. And so it's best to give them kind of like a preview taste the night before than just the 9 a.m. post like, hey, we're open sort of thing. So it's time to go do some marketing. Okay, I have some of my questions here that I just wanted to double check to see if, you know, there was anything I missed that maybe I could have added to make it helpful. We talked a lot about productivity. Size of our wrapping was 18 by 18 and we buy pre-cut sheets. When we first started, I just cut from a roll because it was cheaper. I didn't need that much. This box is like 1,000 plus sheets. I definitely didn't need that our first couple years. So I just bought a roll to save money and I cut it. It was really easy. We talked about wrapping. Oh, someone wanted to know the actual length of our bouquets. And I don't know, like what would you say this is? Can you give, we don't have a measuring tape in here. What is that?
20 inches.
18 to 20 inches, which I think is a great stem length because then people can cut it to size and they're not really gonna have a vase that needs longer stem length. And then someone asked about how we store our flowers. So it's just fresh water in the buckets. When we put together a recipe that has all flowers that can go in a cooler. When I'm done here, I'm just going to put the buckets in a cooler. They're just in there overnight, so the wraps aren't really going to get damaged. If I left them in there for days, they might get a little damp and soft, but overnight is fine. I like to do that because it keeps the sunflowers a bit tighter. When we move into summer and we start putting, you know, like zinnias and celosia and stuff in the bouquets, and I make them Friday night, they're just going to sit in here overnight. We keep it at like 70 degrees and the lights are off. It's, you know, 12, 13 hours. They're totally fine with the vase life, but that's what we do. I don't put anything in the buckets. I don't do a lot of fancy solutions and potions and stuff. If you harvest at the right time into fresh water and keep them in a cooler, the vase life is great, and I haven't had any problems. But that's our process. Thanks for making bouquets with us. Again, if you want even more detail or you just want more breakdowns and stuff, binge watch the other bouquet making videos that we've made, because there's lots of helpful information. I know for a lot of you, it's helpful to like see visually the process of, you know, putting them in your hand, arranging them, how to fold the wrap, all those sorts of things. And I do those as well in the videos. If you want all of our stem pricing, we have that PDF linked below. And if you want to know all of our recipes, have that linked below. In the fall, once we've completed our 4th year here, I will make another one and say like, these are all of our 2025 bouquet recipes, because they're always shifting a little bit depending on what is blooming at the time and what I have to work with. But I only made 5 bouquets, so I need to get to work and maybe at least make 20 before I call it and go to bed. Bye, guys.